Colleagues, a very good morning again to all of you. Let me greet all the colleagues from all different entities, my colleagues from Border Management Authority, SAPS, SNDF, SARS, obviously SSA, other stakeholders that are in our midst, which obviously Commissioner will take care of that when it comes to the podium to introduce them. And then all the esteemed guests. My name is Nkhuliseni Elijah Rubengo. I am the Assistant Commissioner in the Office of the Commissioner. I will be assisting to facilitate today's program. Maybe if one of to give a background, and then I do know that some of you, if not all, are aware that on the 25th of March, we have launched, obviously that was done by our Minister in Home Affairs, what we refer to as the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. We launched it on the 25th of March last year. And then one of the deliverables of a plan of that forum is to have this kind of engagements or this kind of campaigns. Although we had some pockets of this campaign in different forums, we had some pockets of these campaigns in different regions, but the campaigns that were as big as this one was the one that we had last year on the 11th of November in Bridge. So there are some lessons, obviously, that we learned, even the one that we had in Libombo. I think it was during the season, the Easter season. We took those lessons that we have learned there, and we thought, let us have this one in MASERU Bridge. Obviously, the intention was to have it at the border, but we thought, no, because there is a venue here at Lady Brand, we had to interact with the colleagues here, the mayor as well as the municipal manager, who were very kind enough to give us this venue. So we have also agreed as a task team, Commissioner and colleagues, that the first quarter, which is obviously sometimes in May and June, we will have a similar campaign in Oshohook. That is the border that takes us to Eswatini. So, but today we stand here in this hall, obviously in Lady Brand or MASERU as it is. We are here to ensure that this port of entry becomes a node of integrity and then obviously not a corridor of corruption. In terms of the program that we had, it is a little bit of a formal program and an informal one. The formal program is what we are having now in this hall. We have structured the day in such a way that we will first receive some welcome message from the mayor herself, and we will then allow the commissioner to give us some, obviously, introduction, and then we'll also take that opportunity to recognize some of the colleagues in our midst. We will then allow the acting head of the SIU to give us some keynote address in that regard. And depending on how we are going to manage this program, there could be a need for us to break before we get into the realities of those sessions. There are colleagues from SunParks who are going to obviously give us message of support. There will be colleagues from NEHAU, PSA, SAPU, as well as POCRU, who are going to also give us a message of support. We will also give an opportunity to obviously colleagues from Hawks to obviously give us some issues around that particular space. The program will be done in such a way that at the end, we will receive this testimony from our colleagues from correctional services. So that is some kind of an adjustment that we've made instead of obviously concluding with the messages from the organized labor. We've made it a point that they come before an item by the Department of Correctional Services. We have also, in terms of the program, included our partners, that is Old Mutual. They are the one who ensure that you are able to hear me when I'm speaking, you are able to see what is going to be projected. So we have obviously given them an opportunity to give us a message of support as it is. And then that will be the second last item. Without any waste of time, colleagues, let me allow the mayor of this area to obviously welcome us. That is the Councillor Mamsi Twene. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Program Director, the Commissioner of BMA, Commissioner Msiapato. We have amongst us the SAPS, the Justice System, Correctional Services, and the most infamous ones, the Hawks. You are all welcome. Community, eteng, le bohle ba sebeletsang mmuso wa rona, you are welcome. I don't have much to say. Waka kutlo amohela batho fela ba teng ka kwano. We are a very small municipality, Commissioner, situated at the border of Lesotho, at MASERU. We are the first line of experiencing all the illegal crimes and all issues as Mantsopa municipality. So we are happy that today you are here. Rona ba bang re thabile ra o bona ha ntse introduce a nna ke ra wena o national figure ra o bona o ba tsebella TV na se introduce go tsebella TV, and because we are a smaller municipality re thabile gore dinepe tse re tlo di nka. I will be all over social media, the Commissioner. Re tla be re le di-celebrity ka shame. Commissioner, I'm happy that you have this program. We experience a lot of issues across the borderlines. We have on several times as the municipality raised such issues, some of the issues, for instance, with Home Affairs, but up to today I can tell you that we are still not getting correct answers and there's not that effective implementation. I've seen in today's news that you are saying you'll be arresting about, whether you have arrested or you'll be arresting about 50 BMA officials. I've seen that today. I read about that and I said, Joe. Hi, but I said that's a good thing because we need to establish culture, accountability and responsibility in our government. We cannot have the issues about who are illegal, who are foreign nationals, who would come into our country through our officials illegally. You have an area called Hop House in Mantsopa. That's the slaughter town in our municipality, where all crimes are done by Lesotho people. I say it without any fear or favor. That is true. And you just wonder how they get into South Africa. So that's where we are saying we should zoom into that and check how do they get into South Africa and how do they get to have access because they start ruling us. And that is not acceptable. But we are not saying all officials are the same. That would not be correct. Because amongst us, but if there are people basing handle, put pressure. That's what government should do, including us as local government. Where things are not done correctly, we should put pressure. We cannot allow corruption to prevail when our communities are suffering like this. We need to start acting as responsible citizens. Because without being leaders first, we are first part of the communities, of which we must show responsibility about. There's just one thing that I would like to say. I know when we employ people, we say this is South Africa. Anybody, commissioner, can be employed anywhere they want to be employed. Locality means you are South African. Bata ko shebeng le batho ba di locals mo ba sebetsang teng. Can when you recruit also include the locals? For instance, if you recruit for MASERU, can't you at least look at people who are nearer, not necessarily Mantsopa people? Anybody maybe below 200 kilometers, we have Bloemfontein, we have all areas. Can't they also be included? I think that would also say something. Please, Raikopela, we know this is South Africa, but if you don't talk for our people, nobody will talk for them. Not only lona fela, ki bua every time le maponesa, correctional services, ki bua le bona kaofela. Ke re rona, when these intakes are done, I'm one of the people who pushes us special programs. When you say advertiser, I'm the one, my office would be, and I'll personally be here, ke ba thuse re tlatse di form re etseng, not even one hour two. Ao ba shebeng le bona ke sono hle. How? Halisanka le waninyana li thunyana ke ba lo betsa dinthonyana man borogong ke sono. Sa le re tse ba ba gale ba santse ba dutse wa ntse tla fela ba batjha ba tsamaya. Ha ba thola opportunities ba tloa ba ya somewhere else. Ba re siantse re eme so se re ikopela go next time. Can they also be included? Ha o tle le waninyana fela, that would make us very happy. Se re ikopela. On that note, I think I've already spoken to you about the DDM. That next time when we have such programs, include us. The first point of entry in any municipality is the office of the mayor. Lona, you do it the other way around. You come into our space after coming in, how le tata le ruka mayor akena, it doesn't work like that. But there's only one thing I must commend you on, Commissioner. You used our local people. The bonnet there's catering, you've used our local people. And for that, we appreciate that. We're a small municipality, cater a local person. Christmas, at least to travel something. Halisama. Babamba itela fela batla le motho a tswang Bloemfontein bo kae re je le dijo tse re nanang di na le food poisoning ba di pheuwe ko re sa tsebeng teng. So we are happy that kannete mona teng le feel an opportunity and we appreciate that a lot. On this note, ke rata hore ka Sesotho ho thwe le amoheile. Be re re dintja di fasitswe. So ke jwetsa batho hangata ke re rona ha rena dintja Mantsopa. Ha ona ntja e ka ruang ntja e nngwe. E tla o ja o ka e rua. Ntse le bona shebang o ntso bona fela la le tla maskela bua ka di potholes hleng ke le kopa. Hai Commissioner, don't talk about that. Say the hall was full, people had very important information. So you can imagine if we are here in because on that note, you are all welcome. Thank you very much for considering Mantsopa part of this. After this, I'm still in a virtual meeting, but I'll come back. They are above us. I'm not above anybody. I'm just attending a meeting, then I'll come back. You are all welcome.
No, thank you very much, Mayor, for that warm welcome and as well as the message of support. We do know that you have other engagements, but we appreciate that you will be able to come back after you are done with that meeting. We really appreciate this partnership that we had with the municipality, and we will now move into the next item that is going to be rendered by the Commissioner of BMA, that is Dr. Michael Masiapato. He will then be telling us about the purpose of this engagement or the purpose of the campaign. And on that note, Commissioner, you can come to the podium and provide those closing remarks. Colleagues, please let us ensure that there is one meeting or one person who is speaking. If there is anything that you want, you can talk to other colleagues who are at the back there. They will be able to assist you. Thank you very much, Commissioner. You can come to the podium.
Colleagues, good morning. I do know that generally we might be more used to attending funerals where generally there's no greeting. So let me attempt. Colleagues, good morning. Yeah, at least. Now I suppose we are fairly aligned. Colleagues, I have been given a task, and the task I've been given is very much simple, is to reflect as to the purpose of this particular engagement and the purpose of this particular session. But before I do that, as part of just general protocol, let me start by appreciating the leadership that is here. I would like to first start by appreciating an opportunity given to myself by the program director, which is Dr. Nkuliseni Luvengo, who is the Assistant Commissioner within the Border Management Authority, effectively taking charge of the activities within the Commissioner's Office. And of course, in absentia, allow me, colleagues, to appreciate the Mayor of the Mantsopa Local Municipality, Councillor Mamsi Tsweni. We know that she is currently attending that virtual meeting to address some of the key community challenges that are supposed to be addressed. I also want to appreciate the presence of the municipal manager within the municipality, that is Madam Matiro Mohopodi. Colleagues, also allow me to appreciate the presence of the acting head of the Special Investigating Unit. This is the convener of this particular meeting. He is the convener of this particular forum. He is the chairperson of the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum. And that is Mr. Leonard Lecheto. He is sitting here. He is to deliver the real message of the day. And of course, allow me to also appreciate the presence of the Deputy Director General from the Department of Home Affairs, who is our main boss when it comes to immigration matters as the Border Management Authority. That is Advocate Muitse. At the same time, I do know that there are some senior other colleagues from the same department, but we also have some senior representatives from the provincial government of the Free State. Colleagues are fairly appreciated in terms of their presence. We also want to appreciate our colleagues from the Department of Correctional Services. I had spoken to Commissioner Tobahale. He did indicate that the colleagues shall be here. And of course, they have brought our special guest for the day, and you will get to know about them as we unfold in as far as the conversation is concerned. At the same time, colleagues, allow me to appreciate all of the various colleagues that are here from all of the various structures within the justice, crime prevention, and security cluster. In this instance, we can be talking about the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation. Major General Bukaba is here. She is also going to be speaking in the session. Our colleagues from SAPS in totality, our colleagues from SARS, but also our colleagues from the SANDF, together with the colleagues from State Security Agency. Those ones, you are not authorized to see them, but they are among us. So they are actually very much relaxed. So any possible malfunctioning, you might be sitting next to one. So at the end of the day, let's also appreciate our colleagues from SENPACs, as well as the colleagues from some NGOs that are here in our value chain. I'm told Corruption Watch is here. And of course, the leadership and the representative from our organized labor. These are the colleagues that are very much working together with us, very much critical in the value chain. And they are here today. They are also going to be speaking a bit in the value chain. At the same time, let's also appreciate the rest of our colleagues, mainly coming from our two main ports, MASERU Bridge, port of entry, together with Fixback port of entry. Colleagues, I can see on top there are some very strategic colleagues. Let me also appreciate them being here as part of the community of Lady Brand. We appreciate you for being here. At the same time, let's also appreciate members of the media that are here. I do see some strategic people there. I've seen Hadebe in the value chain. I have seen Oscar there. We really appreciate that you're here, and the rest of the other colleagues. So as I've indicated, my task is very much basic, is very much clear, is to basically give in the purpose of this particular value chain, the purpose of this particular campaign. So let me start by saying, colleagues, that there is one thing that continues to bedevil humanity. There is something that continues to be a challenge in as far as human beings are concerned, and that thing is effectively called corruption. Corruption, in simple terms, it means taking some stuff that are not necessarily yours with the intention to use them and ultimately abuse them. So it is actually beyond stealing. It is actually stealing sitting at an extra large level. And that is the context why we are actually here, colleagues. There is one thing that we can fairly indicate, and that is to say that at the end of the day, there are activities that can unfold which can actually amount to corruption. And at the end of the day, some people that had been found in that particular activity can argue that they did not know that it was corruption, they did not know that they were not supposed to be doing it, and they are actually not even aware of the implications. So we are here, colleagues, as part of this session is basically called Fraud and Anti-Corruption Awareness Campaign. So it is a campaign that seeks to bring awareness on the issues that relate to fraud, also on the issues that relate to corruption. We are also here to also talk about the implication of being found having committed fraud, being found having done some corrupt activities, and the ultimate results that comes to that. We are not going to be talking on those issues, particularly myself as the Border Management Authority, leadership per se. We are going to be told by those that are dealing with people that are of that particular nature. And that is why if you are found having done those things, you end up becoming the client of the Department of Correctional Services. And that is why they are here. So that is why we are here to do the campaign to make sure that we are effectively aligned. At the same time, we really want to appreciate all of the people that came to make sure that this particular campaign is successful. The ultimate intention, colleagues, is to declare war on fraud, is to declare war on corruption within our own ranks. It is described as insider threat. It is described as something that is very much problematic. We have to be raising awareness, colleagues, so that in cases somebody actually do these things and they say, I did not know, at least from today they will know, so that they do not necessarily do it going forward. One thing that we know is that in all government structures across the entire ecosystem, in the JCPS or also in other structures, there is something that is called Code of Conduct. It is supposed to be a document that guides the manner in which we are supposed to do the work, the manner in which we are supposed to be conducting ourselves. So on that particular basis, it is meant to guide the work that you are supposed to be doing, the manner in which you are supposed to behave. As soon as you do certain things outside the provision of the Code of Conduct, outside the legislative framework of what you are supposed to be doing, effectively, that amounts to this particular challenge. When you start doing things for the purposes of your personal gain, outside the impact, the negative impact thereof of the state, it therefore becomes what we basically do not necessarily promote. So at the end of the day, we are saying, firstly, from a Border Management Authority point of view, ultimately being mandated to coordinate and collaborate with the multiplicity of stakeholders that have a mandate and a role to play in as far as the border environment is concerned. We want everybody to be aware of the things that they are not supposed to be doing when they do the work in the port of entry environment. At the same time, we do know at the same time that there are instances where people might actually want some bit of KFC and they realize that they do not have some sense to be able to procure it. And therefore they ask the travelers to give them some 50 rand, but it is therefore a challenge if you do that and you get the 50 rand for KFC and you allow somebody to enter the country without requisite documents. That becomes very much problematic, and that is basically the reason that we are here. We are going to get that explained. We are going to then talk about the second part, the issue of the consequences. What are to be the consequences arising from any of the person who will be doing an activity that is not necessarily supposed to be done? Once you do that, then you become the client of what we call the WOX, the Directorate for Special Investigation. You are possibly also going to be the client of the Special Investigating Unit, and ultimately, possibly, you are going to be observed and actually processed by the National Prosecuting Authority. Possibly, you will be the client of correctional services. I do know that in correctional services, sometimes they say they do have the beds, and those beds are fairly waiting for yourselves. But I do know that there is one of the inmates who had indicated that it's actually not the beds, they are braai stands. So you just need to be very much careful that you don't find yourself there and ultimately sleeping on the braai stand. So that is the reality. We need to make sure that we are fairly aware of these particular issues, and the colleagues are going to talk about that. Let me then move towards concluding and say, we are intending to build an ethical environment. We are intending to build an environment where everybody understands what is right and what is wrong, to understand the principles of the negative impact of doing nefarious issues in a port environment. What are the implications of that from a national security point of view? What are the implications of your activities from the preservation of the country's national interest point of view? Because working in a port environment is very much critical. It is very much different than any other functions that are done out there, because effectively you can actually bring something that is going to cause harm to the state on a very serious note. And that is why our objective is to build an ethical environment where everybody who works in the space stands at the highest level of integrity. And that is basically the essence. You will also be aware that the issue of integrity still stands as one of the critical pillars and the critical values of the Border Management Authority. And on that basis, we want everybody to be able to observe those particular principles. The ultimate end, we know this for sure. When the good fellows are actually quiet, the bad fellows thrive, and that becomes a problem. We do know that the majority of the officials who are working in these spaces are committed to their work in the midst of the difficult situation and the challenges that they operate under with very limited resources ultimately. And at the end of the day, only some few groups will continue to do nefarious issues. And when those things come out, it becomes very much problematic because it actually stifles everybody, and the branch ultimately end up actually covering everybody. And those are the issues that we need to avoid by making sure that we expose those among ourselves that continue to do the things that they are not supposed to be doing. And that becomes very much critical for us to be able to move. Now, what is our call for action? Our call for action is that we must stand together in doing good in the work that we do at the port. We must be able to commit ourselves to use Operation Hitibise number of the Border Management Authority and report our colleagues that we have seen that they are doing nefarious activities. To that extent, we will be able to deploy the relevant colleagues to the ground and be able to identify and find them doing those issues, and we will make sure that they are brought to book and we are able to deal with them accordingly. So that is fairly the reason and the purpose why we are here, but the ultimate intention is not to necessarily say that everybody working in the space is actually a suspect. The reality of it is everybody working in the space are highly appreciated for the great work that they do in terms of protecting our national security, in terms of preserving our national interest, in terms of facilitating the legitimate movement of people and goods. And therefore, we must just deal with these elements that are very much problematic. This campaign, we consider it as a proactive measure to make sure that we stop corruption. We have acted for too long in being reactive and in dealing with corruption after it has happened. It is very much painful, colleagues, and it is very much hard for one to sit in the office and sign letters that are seeking to fire people. As the Border Management Authority, we are sitting at 25% capacity, and therefore we need more people to come through into the organization. You will know that we are supposed to be 11,200, but we are only 2,600. So we need more than 8,000 people to come through into the organization according to our structure. The only challenge, obviously, is the financial allocation. We do believe as we go forward, we'll get that, and we are going to get people hired. We did listen to the mayor, and we heard her well, that when it comes to posts at this nature, we need to consider people around those particular areas, and I think that is a very fundamental point, and we agree to that particular point. Now, the unfortunate part, since the BMA has been operating, we fired over 50 people. And unfortunately, those were the people doing immigration work in the main around the port of entry. As we speak, there are more than 38 people that are undergoing disciplinary processes, once again, being found doing these corrupt activities. And possibly, those 38 people are likely to be fired. What does it mean in practical terms? You yourself, you are not among the 38 or among the 50 that has already been fired. Therefore, make sure that you don't join them and you ultimately become a statistic. I think that the colleagues from corrections are going to actually start indicating what are the implications, and they will give an example. What happens if you are found and you ultimately go into the environment? That is the purpose of this particular campaign. That is the purpose of this particular session, and the colleagues are going to come and tell you the real stuff. Even if you might think, or no, it's again, these fellows are choosers. You must be very much careful. Our now choosers are here. You must ask those that are already behind bars and they've lost everything. And that is not what we need. And that is basically the reason why we are here, to make sure that we do what we are supposed to do. That is the expected role and work that we must do as the Border Management Authority in the port space. Thank you very much.
Commissioner, thank you very much for setting the scene for us, and then also to outline the purpose of this campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this campaign talks to the multi-stakeholder approach. To extend on this particular issue, we need also the perspective of those who coordinate the fight against fraud and corruption. On this note, I will call upon the acting head of the Special Investigating Unit, that is in Tate Leonard Liketo, to come and obviously in his capacity as the chair of the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum to deliver to us the keynote address. Please welcome the acting head of SIU.
Program Director, thank you so much for the opportunity. Perhaps before I start, let me also pass the greetings to the Mayor in absentia, and also to the Commissioner of Border Management Authority, and the representative from Correctional Services, the representative from the local municipality, and understand that the municipal manager is also present, and also the provincial head for the DPCI present, the DDG from Home Affairs responsible for anti-corruption. There's also a representative from Sun Park, and understand there's organized labor, media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for affording us this opportunity to be here this morning. It also gives me a great honor and privilege to be part of this high-level campaign against fraud and corruption in the border and immigration sector. Corruption has become endemic, infiltrating institutions meant to protect our people. It undermines democracy and weakens national security and erodes service delivery and robs citizens of opportunity of socio-economic development. That is why government, business, civil society, labor must unite in a whole of society approach in order to confront this scourge of corruption. And also, before I carry on, I just need to mention that last week we were also launching the Water Sector Anti-Corruption Forum. It's a forum similar to this one, where we also come together to make sure that we fight corruption in the water sector. So, recent investigation, as you know, that the special investigation is responsible for investigating corruption and maladministration in government. So recently, the SIU have revealed disturbing reality, and I'm sure all of you will remember the press conference that we had where we released the Home Affairs report, where it showed that officials entrusted with safeguarding our immigration system have instead turned it into a marketplace where permits and visas were sold to the highest bidder. Example that we did during that press conference is that an official earning 25,000 per month receive a deposit amounting to 16 million, funneling bribes through spouse. They use their spouse in order to get those money, in order to disguise this illicit gain. Some built mansion, purchased luxury vehicle, and enrich themselves by unlawfully approving fraudulent permits. And these syndicates operate with precision, exploit weakness in the verification process, while external actors such as, for example, I did make an example of Prophet Bushiri and also Mr. Mpofu, who also were entangled in the whole thing. Why I'm saying this is because we all know the people that are living within the community. And we know who's working and who's not working, and who's driving flashy car, and they are not working. That's why such forum is very important, because as a whole, as a government, the whole societal approach, it's going to help us to fight corruption. So we really need you in this fight. So under the proclamation that we have referred above, we have referred a number of criminal matters to National Prosecuting Authority, where they really in the process of making sure that they take action against those officials, together with some of those foreigners who are involved in this. One official used a fraudulent permit to secure a CFO position. A foreigner came into the country and he managed to get permits, and he became a CFO in a government institution where he bought assets and luxury cars using that. And remember, that official didn't come here and offer himself this ID or the permit. There's somebody internal who facilitated that to happen. But I can tell you that that official thought it's not going to happen, it's not going to be found. And we managed to find that official. And now, currently, is no more in the system, just because you are doing it in order to assist or because of greed. When we talk about the whole societal approach, we know that to combat this scourge of corruption, particularly in the border management space, based on the forum that we have established in 2025, the role of this forum is to bring together law enforcement agency, civil society, organized labor, and the private sector in order to foster collaboration. As it has been indicated that the whole notion of this meeting is to foster collaboration. So we have established this border management anti-corruption forum in order to foster that collaboration and also to strengthen accountability. From what we have seen is that there are people that come report matters, but they don't know what happened to those matters. As a result, they end up not reporting the matter because I report, nothing happened. So therefore, this forum, the role is to say, let's come together, let's hold each other accountable. And also, it is to close the systemic gaps. As you know that there are gaps in the system that some of the officials are exploiting. So the whole of the forum is to say, let's identify some of those gaps and see how we can close them. So the SIU has also developed a national corruption risk management and prevention framework, which introduced proactive measures such as lifestyle audit, vetting of employee, data analytics, and the use of technology like artificial intelligence to detect irregularities before they occur. So what we mean is that as much as there are many anti-corruption agencies that are investigating corruption after it has happened, the focus now from SIU is that let's go through to prevention. It's better to prevent than to cure. So we have put together a framework where it will focus merely on the prevention part so that we make sure that this thing does not happen, because to investigate takes so much effort than to prevent. So that's the focus that we are really looking forward. And in order to identify some of those officials, there will be introduction of the lifestyle audit, where we're going to have to see whether are you living within your means. So just to indicate some of the things, because remember, SIU, we operate with whistleblower, and people come and report to us what is happening. So let me tell you what are they saying, what is happening in the border. The first one, they are saying, in the passport. There's money that is being put in the passport as they are being given away. So we know about that. As to what are we going to do about it, it's just a matter of time for us to be able to act on it. The other one that we know, that we have been told, is that passports are being stamped without people being present. There's a taxi that comes from Gauteng. Every day it comes to the border to come stamp. In the morning it goes back. We understand that. And that one also, we're just going to wait until we take action. And the other one that we've been told is that people buy more days. So even that one, we are aware of it. And also we are aware of the issues where searches are not conducted when the goods get into the border. So we know all of these things. So it's just a matter of time for us to be able to come to a point where we say it stopped here. And the unfortunate part is that others might have done it, and maybe during that day, it might happen to one of us, So, but the issue is, let's stop before we get caught. The fact that you have made it before and you have succeeded, it doesn't mean that you're going to succeed through over and over again. And this is not only applying to the border management, it applies to all of us in our different environment, that we really need to guard ourselves and be faithful to what we are doing, what we are appointed to do. While we confront those who are corrupt, we must also celebrate the many officials who remain steadfast in their duties. To those who uphold integrity, who resist bribery, and who protect the nation's border with honor, South Africa, thank you. So we thank you for being diligent in doing your job. You are the guardians of our democracy and the protector of our sovereignty and the embodiment of ethical services. We encourage you to continue to do your civic duty with honor and integrity. We also ask that when you witness acts of corruption, please blow the whistle. We know some of these things, like I indicated, but sometimes we tend to look the other way. But it is your duty to report it. Being a whistleblower, we know it's not easy, but for the sake of this land we stand on today and the future of the nation, we ask that you blow the whistle so that we can end corruption in our society. Example that I normally give to our members of the SIU, particularly when we have the ethics, the anti-corruption awareness, is that, do you know that the person who uses state vehicle for his personal gain you take a unit vehicle to go and do your own private matter, you are the same as that person who take out petrol from the unit, from the state vehicle. You are not different. But because people say, no, I'm just going there and coming back, you are not similar to the person that drain petrol from the state vehicle. It's all the same, it's amount to theft. So in conclusion, the fight against corruption is far from over, but progress is being made. We must move beyond reactive measure and embrace proactive, whereby risk-based strategy that prioritize vulnerable sector like immigration should be really implemented. At the border and across all the ports of entry, let us commit to rooting out corruption and hold the guilty accountable and supporting those who serve with integrity. Together, through a whole of government and societal approach, we can restore trust and protect our border and ensure that citizenship is never up for sale. Lastly, fighting corruption is everybody's responsibility. It's not the responsibility of law enforcement agency. All of us are responsible for fighting corruption. We can do it by reporting it. In that way, it will help law enforcement to make sure that they fight corruption. With those few words, I'd like to thank all of you for coming to this session and really wish you well. And we hope to see changes out of this meeting as we go back to our own offices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ntate Likheto, for that powerful keynote. I must say it's a very scary information that one is earning 10 rands, but the expenditure or the expenses of that particular person is 50 rands. And then when you interrogate that, you find that a person has never got any inheritance from the parents or from the grandparents. So it's like myself who had a father who was a bricklayer. The only thing that I inherited is a truffle, you see. You know what a truffle is. So I'm only relying on the BMA salary. So if you see me having a lot of assets outside there, you need to interrogate as to whether there is something that I got from the church. But these are some of the things that we do experience. Thank you very much for sharing with us also the modalities around how the Border Management and Immigration Anti-Corruption Forum works, that coordination role that you play. And yeah, that was very informative, very scary, I wanted to also emphasize. Colleagues, we also talk about, or usually talk about corruption in theory, something that we learn from textbooks, or something that we read about in the newspapers. But we don't necessarily talk about how we catch these offenders. So to give us a law enforcement perspective on how investigations are conducted and then also how apprehensions are made, we are going to invite to the podium Major General Mohadi Mokaba, who is the Free State Provincial Head of Hawks, obviously the Directorate for Priority Crimes, to come and share with us some of the work that they do in catching these offenders and the processes, obviously, that unfold, the interaction that they will have with other stakeholders in the space of fighting fraud and corruption and obviously other crime. Please allow me to welcome to the forum Major General Mokaba. Madam.
Good morning. Dumelang. Le ko di mo dumelang. Ke a bona ba le lebala. Ba ntse ba choma ka sekgowa ba le lebala mo. Indeed, it's a beautiful morning for us as colleagues to converge and to self-introspect. I guess this is the purpose of this session. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for the invite. And let me appreciate the presence of the acting head of the SIU, Ntate Lekgetho. And I will ride on the protocol that has been established. My name is Major General Mokhadi Bukaba. By birth, I'm from Pretoria. By destination, I'm in Bloemfontein. By sentiment, I'm in Free State. So remorgo. I think when the invite came and we saw that BMA and other stakeholders want us to engage about what we see and what's happening out there, I think for one, it gave me a bit of pleasure, but a worrisome part. But then I was comforted by the fact that when I looked at the track record of what we have done, of how much footprint we have established, it created a bit of peace and a bit of discomfort. And I'll talk about the bit of peace and a bit of discomfort towards the tail end of my presentation. I think it is important to indicate, Commissioner, that we have an office in the Eastern Free State, which probably is the one that deals mostly with our colleagues along the borderline. Our office is based in the Bethlehem, and there's one which is in Phuthaditjhaba. The one in the Bethlehem office is the one where our serious corruption investigators are sitting. So I would have loved that some of my colleagues would have come to join me, but unfortunately the week came when AGSA is visiting us. So therefore, it became important that I carry the load by myself. I think today I want to share with everybody so that they get to know who are we. I don't want you to see us as the enemies, but I want us to see us as friends in the JCPS cluster. And I want you guys to see us as those that are working towards a safer South Africa. I want to share with you what do we do in the three spectrums in the operational environments and the team that I lead. And I want us to engage and talk face to face about this thing called corruption. What triggers it? Why do we find ourselves on the wrong side while we entered in the right side of the door? And of noting, I want to talk to our colleagues who are stationed at the border. And that includes my colleagues, men and women in blue, men and women in green, and men and women in darker blue, that's customs. Because I think we are the major troika that's sitting at our ports of entry. So either we make it or we break it for all of us, our descendants, and for our beautiful South Africa. And I want to also indicate to all of you how painful is it that some of us, we saw some of our colleagues and some of your colleagues having to lose their pensions, and others have to literally find themselves having to go through a rehabilitative corrective process through DCS. But the painful part is the fact that while you go through that process of DCS, it becomes an honor and a pleasure for government to take their portion of pension. And it's painful for us to see your children becoming motherless and fatherless. And the arm of the law is very strong, because we don't only just take your pension and everything, but if you have actually bought assets, it becomes a pleasure to also take that, because we see that it's proceeds of crime. So imagine that there won't be any legacy that you're leaving behind. So firstly, maybe let me start by saying, who are we? We are the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, known as the Hawks, and we were established upon the disbandment of the Scorpion. I think everybody knew the Scorpions. They drove in their black cars, we drive in the white cars, so don't mistaken us. We have a little bird that flies. They had something with a red mark around their distinctive operational method. We are part and parcel of the South African Police Service, and we are given our authoritative powers in Section 17C of the South African Police Service Act. And the establishment of the DPCI, which is the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigation, is embedded within Section 17D of the similar act. We are given a mandate to deal with what's regarded as national priority offenses, and that's big English. But let me just tell you what we are focusing on. In simple terms, we look at serious organized crime, and probably those that are at the border post, you might be thinking, why is she talking about organized crime? Remember when you look at our law and they tell you about an organized group, they're talking about a group of people working together for a similar goal in an organized fashion. So therefore, we can look at you in that way. We also do commercial crime matters, and in that space, we're talking about fraud in all its spectrum. And that's where I talk to my brothers within the customs. You know those ghost imports and exports, the round-tripping of goods with our fellow colleagues in blue and green? That's my colleagues in the South African Police Service and the colleagues of Commissioner MASERU. Because for goods to round-trip or for us to create ghost invoicing, importing and exporting, we have to work together. Because on my own, I can't make sure that that truck under-declares these goods and somebody ensures that the trucks go in or literally doesn't actually even leave the border post. So those are the ones that probably will be dealt by the commercial crime, but we only evaluate which section of the directorate can that matter go into. And believe you me, we don't mind merging all three. And the third component is the serious corruption. Within serious corruption, we've made a lot of strides. Hence, I said it's not nice. But all I can tell you is we literally have 56 of my colleagues. Some are still serving their sentence. The pension went back to the contributor, that's the South African Police Service. Their portion is all lost. And I'm happy, Commissioner, that within here we have my colleagues from SAPU, my colleagues from POP Crew, and I know that you guys also have ties with PSA. And in this forum that I plead with them that as they engage with their members, they actually try and indicate to them that the unemployment rate in South Africa, it's getting higher quarter by quarter. And should you risk that job that MASERU was talking about, some of the people crying to be employed, and you risk it over an additional page in a passport, closing your eyes and looking the other way that some ghost import or export are moving, you have to start to think about how you as our labor community talk to them about ensuring that integrity and ethics are the key and the center part of their lives. Within the serious corruption environment, we have seen quite a lot happening in the border post. Before my time joining this province about 3 years ago, I was at National and I coordinated some of the work. In my other previous lives, when I was at SARS, I also saw that in various border posts. And I think you said, Commissioner, that you guys were in Limpopo. I remember one matter that we actually dealt with when I was in SARS, and it was around that border in northwest to go into Botswana. The hostility that you receive as an anti-corruption investigator at the port of entry, you become an enemy of the state. Just by you setting your foot there, the noise has moved around the port of entry. And all the additional pages for the day are silenced. But they tend to forget that commissioners indicated that amongst us, we have people that are never seen. And that's people within the intelligence community. And that's where they play a critical role. Because by the time of the arriving of the anti-corruption officer, they've already established what is happening in the ports of entry. So if you think you're not washed, Big Brother is watching you from somewhere. I think we just need to look at what does corruption do to all of us? And I think we all see what is happening out there. There's Donald Trump on one side, there's increase of VAT on the other side, there's offer for us to take early retirement, there's job loss on the other side, companies are closing. We are literally in a state of emergency. But not only that, corruption literally sends a message to the community out there that we are a country that can become a football course. I appreciate when Tatele Kgetho was speaking about the milestones that they actually have shown us as a country. And you start looking at the people who are involved, those that we have trusted with your ID number. You know how important your ID number is? You must ask somebody who actually fell for ID theft. And they found themselves in credit bureaus left, and center because their identity was stolen. But of noting, it reduces the interest and the confidence of this country for people to come and invest. But we are just seen as streetwise too. You come in, you go out. The mayor indicated very clearly the pain that they see within the municipalities that are sitting in the border. And I agree with that. Because you look at the lawlessness that's moving around, and it does not only move with people in passports, it moves with those that are actually even moving on foot and just cross without any paper. And we know how it's done. We know the problem that you guys are having with your stamps, and we know how you guys are doing it. And I'm talking from a position that I know. I know how you do it. And let me tell you how lately they are doing it. They come and land in their beautiful colors. Right now we're talking about 2 ports of entry, Fixback and MASERU. Right from the entry point, there's a scouter who tells them, then the other one moves to the one with the power. The one with the stamp has more power, Commissioner. And what he does, call of nature, take the stamps, put it in the pocket, take a chewing gum or a boss stick. Then he gets on the corner, meets with the other one. They give him the whole stack of passports, get into the toilet, stamp, stamp, stamp. But what he did, he has put a boss stick on that serial number. I'm just saying, I don't know how you're going to change your system. But I thought in this engagement, it's important that we actually look at the gaps in the system, and we tell you that we know. Maybe they can be nice, you know. For me, nah. We know how you do it. And that's why when we catch you, we go with so much anger, because we feel of the work that you are creating for us. Because everybody that you arrest at the border post, it's South African Police Service that have to carry it. And not that I'm saying my colleagues are not doing it. That's why when we also arrest them, it becomes so nice, because we remove them. We detach you of what's us, and that's the pride that we wear on our shoulders. But it's not joyful to do that to your colleague. And I think, Commissioner, you touched by explaining, and defining what corruption is. But I always say to people, corruption is more like integrity. And integrity is doing the right thing when even no one is looking. But with corruption, it's intentionally choosing the wrong thing when you see that the right thing is in front of your face. Because it's a choice. You can't say, I was put in a corner, they kidnapped my mother, and they said I must stamp this passport. No. No, it doesn't fly. It's a choice that you wake up in that morning, you stand up from your bed and your house and you say, today ke tlo bua ka 5,000. It's a decision that you've taken because it's a norm. It's a day-to-day. And when we come and arrest you, now we look like we're the bad ones. We need to self-reflect. And we need to ask ourselves, are we really doing what's required of us? Holding up this constitution that we've been entrusted with. You know, as we speak about corruption, because I think it's seen as a subtle thing. You know, unlike cash in transit, then there's a hype, a murder of a person, there's a hype about it. But for some of us who sit in the background of other things, we have seen the impact of corruption, not just in the border post, but it's in entirety. And that was during the time, Commissioner, when we were dealing with our grey listing. When we were told that as a country, there's so many commissions that get established and that deals with corruption. And I don't want us to see us establishing commission of inquiry dealing with issues in the border post. Because there can be a lot of things that will come out there. But it will be so painful to hear your name, and your name being the one being mentioned in that. And I think because of the subtleness of corruption, and it's just not making headlines, unlike when there's a cash in transit or when there's a brutal murder of a family, we think it's a by-the-way transaction. Believe you me, colleagues, it's not. Because its underlying consequences lead to a lot of people being unemployed. It leads to us not literally being able to grow. Commissioner has spoken about how you guys want to grow as an entity, but how you are regressing because you have to actually expel some of your own. I just want to reflect on what we see in the border post. And I'm talking about the little bird's eye view that we have as the Hawks. We see a permanent systematic problem. And when I talk of systematic problem I talk about a continued repetition of the same thing happening almost in a similar modus operandi, changing here and there, and it becomes part of life. And the unfortunate part is it creates so much work for us. And believe you me, there's better and serious thing that we need to do than arresting our own colleagues. And the unfortunate part is, no matter how much we arrest, there's new players in the game that comes in. And you know, I think there's one thing that I have picked. It's that even people who know that they have the additional allowance, which is that additional salary that comes in, they are okay not getting promoted. They are so okay. I'll be a constable, I'm a sergeant, I'm fine. I don't know how your ranks go, but I'll talk about mine. They're okay. And it's not normal for a person to want to remain stagnant without growth while the years are going by. So you have to ask yourself, what could be the problem? Then the additional allowance, and remember the additional allowance at ports of entry doesn't go with e-wallet, doesn't go with bank account, because we want to see it now. You want to cross now, you give it to me now. So you look at the collection for the week and the impact of the collection for the month and the collection for the quarter. Then, why do I need promotion? I'm fine here. Because where I am, I literally make what she's getting after toiling and answering to Parliament and doing that. Me, I'm okay here. I sit in my space and I'm managing that. So probably we also have to look at, rotation. You become comfortable, tomorrow they come. Your people of the Dururu Beles, in Northwest Baba Bita di Tlochwana. I'm not sure where in Limpopo, what do they call them? That when they arrive there, they find new faces. And it creates a bit of discomfort. And that will actually just almost deal with the system. And I also ask myself, as I look at this bird's eye view of mine, why are our colleagues doing this? And I feel we have come to a point where we have a total disregard of law. Irrespective of how much oath you have taken, irrespective of how much you have signed to say you will serve with pride and integrity, but your greediness supersedes your commitment to the badge. What we don't see, colleagues, is the fact that what we do has reputational damage to government, to the government departments that are leading in the forefront within the border post, and to the citizens at large. Just imagine some of the matters, Commissioner, that we're dealing with. A person will cross through one of the two border posts, come this side, kill people, same night, go back. Do you want to tell me he flew over? I don't think any man has wings to fly. When we were growing up, we were told about Loibafufa, but I've never seen one. But I strongly believe that a person with a firearm will cross simply because he has decided not to create an additional page, but a whole passport filled with the additional pages. Commit crime here, in the same night, go back. Others become unfortunate that they come and commit such and become very comfortable and mix with the ladies within our country. And that's how, at times, the intelligence community is able to tell us that the person you are looking for actually is in one of the areas outside or just in the peripheries of the border. I want to tell you a few milestones that we have made, and I feel it's just a drop in the bigger ocean of what's happening. We had a project in Caledon Sport. We had 31 dockets opened that implicated 13 of my own SAPS members and 7 immigration officers. From the 13 in the SAPS, 12 were found guilty in the court of law. All 13 of them, internally, they were dismissed. I know the immigration officers were also found guilty. I'm not sure about the internal processes because, unlike SIU, we don't follow up on internal processes. Then we had another project at Fixbeck. 26 dockets opened, 15 SAPS members, 8 immigration officers, and some few individuals who were runners coming from the community. It's also sad to say all of my 15 colleagues were internally dismissed. And because of the way that this was done in Fixbeck, we decided not just to move as single-faceted cases, but we went the racketeering route. And when we say racketeering route, we looked at the implications when we put the matter before the court and tell the court that this is an organized group. There's a leader who sits here and he sends the message to this one, and these other ones have different roles that they play. So we see them as a serious grouping or as a criminal gang. But is it nice to be doing that? Me coming into court holding a docket, and I see Warrant Officer Mokoena there, now already on trial. It's not a nice thing. But because the unfortunate part is some of us, there's work that we have to do. We do that. Do we do it with peaceful heart? No, we do it with pride and integrity. You take your heart, you put it out there. You take your pity and your sorrow, you put it out there. And you decide to wear the South African flag, and you decide to wear the SAPS badge. And of importantly, you remember your Hawks mandate, and you deliver with diligence. Then we had another project. In MASERU. And on this one, it's a similar one where I was talking about our colleagues within the customs, working together with SEPs and immigration officers, working on ghost imports and exports. So it does not mean it's additional page only in the passport. We are very innovative. If they decide to change the passport, we look at bigger entities that might want to say goods have moved and whereas goods have not moved. So we are very innovative, but forgetting that in that process of becoming innovative, it's how many years that you have put to work. It's how many years that you have decided that you want to serve. I think by staying in Bloemfontein, it gave me an opportunity that right now I think my passport has so many stamps going to Lesotho because it has become my first tourist attraction. And I'm going to tell you what I saw, Commissioner, and it's food for thought. I think, as I said, we have to self-reflect and ask ourselves, how do we do better? When you arrive in MASERU, welcome to MASERU in green. Left-hand side, you park your car. You'll see it when you arrive. Left-hand side, you park your car. That's the outer perimeter. There's no one who even confirms that when I walk in there, I have a passport. No one. Until I go to that window. And I go to that window, and let me tell you, oh, your people, oh, they have attitude. Oh, they have attitude. But it's okay, because we forgot the principle of Batopili. Then they tell you, go that side, we stand in a queue. They work at their own time. But the first outer perimeter, the gap, no one confirmed that I'm supposed to go in there. Because in my belief, the minute you arrive at a port of entry, first person needs to check if I have a right passport to get into the port of entry. I'm already there. I'm having my old passport that has expired. No one knows. I go into the window. I go there. I get hey, folks. Hey, what am I? Hold on now. Hey. Hey, I go to some more. Then Mufuke one chair. Hey, someone else. Hey. Hey. Oh, yeah, Sherry Festival. Hey, again. Oh, there's a pink note. It's a 200 note. Who'll say no to a 200 note? Hello? Just going by and coming back. And it gets stamped. Then, and I want everybody who's at the port of entry to see where you are stationed, ne? And you see your gaps in what you are doing. Outer parameters, again, naile walk. No one is looking at me. I give Mofuke my passport with 200 rand. I get there where my colleagues are and your colleagues, where we drive. There was never a time where I was asked for anything relating to the car I drive. God's my witness. You must go to that border, Yaluhurutsi. They check you. If I come there, you borrowed me your car, Dr. Masiabat. They want the affidavit of the owner of the car because Inatis draws that this car, age Mang GP, belongs to M. Masiapato, but you are M. Bukaba. Then I say, borrowed, go to a funeral, come back. Great. And I'm talking about the vulnerabilities that I have seen. And in these vulnerabilities, that's when we debrief or take postmortem of our investigation, we realize that there are gaps that are created somewhere. Remember I spoke about that guy who comes leading Rurubeletsa Heights at 12, and the guy goes to the toilet, and what temper? Give it back, put in the pocket, the taxi passes. Now this is individual people. And now I start thinking to myself, next time I can pass with a human being in here, because no one is checking. And remember, we have an acting judge who was killed in Free State. That border post, we only managed to find the guy in Mokotlo. And it was just by luck. And that says what? We don't check. So it means I can decide not to fitisa dirurubele ka kenya dirurubele tsaka in the car, in the boat, because we all, when we go to Lesotho, we prefer going in four-wheel drives. I can go in that bakkie of mine that has a bin, and the minute I get there by no man's land, I open the bin, and I tell them, there's a little bit of air that goes in. 2 minutes, we cross him by. Self-reflect. What are we doing? Why do we do that? Is it not expected of us to check? And those are the things that some of us we see happening. Then you start asking yourself, if I, for one, am able just to move from Bloemfontein and decide to go to Tababusiu, and literally the only challenge that I had was the queue of stamping my passport. What about a person who's in business? Pala, these people are in business. The ones with additional pages, it's a business. So you start asking yourself, this business is flourishing. And it's because of me and you that failed to do what's required of us. Like I said, as I'm about to conclude, we understand the vulnerabilities of our system and we maximize on them. But as you maximize on the vulnerabilities of the system, just know that Big Brother is watching you. The day shall come when we will be reading you your rights. It's not nice to hear you have a right to remain silent. You have a right to a legal representative. Anything you say shall be used you against in the court of law, especially when it's said by a fellow colleague. So therefore, I urge all of us that we have to look, and we have pending projects. And I won't indicate at which border posts, but we'll be visiting them. And I'll make sure, I normally don't go out when they go and pick up the people. But Zoli, just remind me, when they say they're going to this port of entry to pick up colleagues, I need to be there. So that I remind you that you remember me. Remember that day when we were at the hall? I told you we are coming. You thought you are unseen. You thought it's okay. You thought it's okay to make our country a transit and an entry point for all illegal goods and all illegal substances. You know, I sit in this other committee, we call it the bilateral, where we sit with Lesotho Mounted Police and all other provinces that have various borders, that share various borders with Lesotho. And they tell us about the number of fortuners that are just crossing by. Remember I said, Motu wafufa ke moloi. Okay, koloi. How will a car fly over the border post? So it means there were enablers right from the entry point to a point that I said nothing is checked. And it's all of us here. And the sad part is some of those cars are taken with sheer violence. Somebody has lost a life. And you perpetrated that, and you actually encouraged that because you turned to the other side and make sure that they cross. I just want to give you a quote from Terry Belcher that says, "Nothing kills a great employee faster than watching another tolerate a bad one." So if you see them, report them. When you report them, we won't actually even say to you, no. There is ways and mechanisms that we deal with this. There is ways and measures that are put in place that we deal with this. And hence I said, there's no joy in making sure that somebody loses their pension and is convicted. There is no joy in us coming and reading our colleagues their rights. And like Ntatele Kgetho has said, especially we see you. We patile. Out of the blue, you no more drink brutal fruit. Now you drink istropass. Bontate, you also hlelo tsamaya ka Mazda 323. So it's like Lexus. We it already because it's in you. It's in the system. You know, it was so funny in closing when we were doing the project in Lihurutsi, that when we had to go, that was in my other life when I was also working at the asset forfeiture unit. It was so interesting that you walk into, because now he doesn't want to expand the house, ne? Because now we're going to see that now he has money, he has expanded the house. Hey, they will squeeze in that big screen TV from here to here. It will turn because it's, you know, it's status now that he has I don't know whether it's 65 or whatever inches, that when the boys come and watch soccer, he has the biggest TV ever. Because the minute he start expanding the house, we're going to start asking, where does he get the money from? So it's those sweet things of now that leaves a bitter taste in the tomorrow. I thank you.
General, thank you very, very, very much. Let us come back, colleagues. Thank you very much for that insight. We allowed General to obviously exceed time because we wanted the message to penetrate, if there is that word in English. And it is very clear that, colleagues, if you look at I was told that I also need to use this other language, but I was afraid that sometimes when I use Sesotho, obviously unintentionally, because some of the words are hachi habutsi. So I will refrain from doing that. So it is clear that in terms of what the General says, there is no way to hide. We will also, General, ensure that all those vulnerabilities and the gaps that we have identified in our systems are able to be taken care of so that we can close them, but we really appreciate that you were able to obviously identify them. Colleagues, in terms of our program, we were supposed to have an item that was going to be rendered by a representative from SARS, so that the person can share with us the issues that they are doing in terms of combating and preventing illicit trade and smuggling. So we are not going to have that item. I was talking to my colleague who is responsible for logistics that at 11 we will break for tea and then obviously for networking and then obviously for other issues that are related to activities that are done during break, which I want to mention. And then the colleague from Sun Park indicated that he's only going to need plus minus 7 minutes. So I thought we should give him that opportunity to do that. And the one Tateramatuba, who are responsible for specialized function, especially in the environmental space, and I believe also Assistant Commissioner for Share, will indicate or confirm that there is a link between trade and obviously environmental crime. So that link is undeniable, it is there. Hence there is obviously a direct link between that environmental crime and illegal wildlife trafficking as well as poaching. So the person is going to render that item is Dr. Fundi from Sun Park, that is Nicholas Funda, sorry, not Fundi. And we will give him that 10 minutes that he wanted. Obviously, there will be something that is projected on the screen for you to obviously follow. Yeah, we are able to see. Dr. Funda?
Thank you, MC. I hope you can hear me. I can even shout. I will say all protocol observed because I don't want to, I'm not saying we are not important, but I just want to run through my slides because maybe my memory is no longer that good to keep everything on my head. I need slides to remind me. And Commissioner, you mentioned in our informal discussions that we're dealing with a very complex a thing here called corruption. And it's very complex, very difficult. We are trying to, I'm going to talk about that slide. I think most of my presentation will rely on that slide. And to demonstrate that this thing is very complex. It's not happening only around us. It's a global problem. In terms of corruption and crime and wildlife crime. And we are seen as suppliers of environmental assets in South Africa. And there are people that are interested in our assets globally, not necessarily here in South Africa. Therefore, it's challenging our ports of entry because how do these products get out of the country? They get through our ports of entry or in some areas that are not managed, are not manned. I'd like to talk about, I don't have a pointer. I want to spend some time here on greed and poverty. People, they said poaching is a result of greed and poverty. Other people are arguing by saying, if you kill an impala, it's just for subsistence, it's not commercial. But if you kill 500 impalas, surely it's not subsistence, it's something else. If you kill a rhino and you leave all the meat in the bush and you take a rhino horn, is it still a poverty? I doubt if that's the case. Therefore, we're dealing here with a very organized crime general, where the syndicates are not necessarily sitting in South Africa. The syndicates are all over the world. And unfortunately, they recruit poor people to pull a trick and kill our animals. And the whole chain of rhino poaching and rhino horn and other assets, there are many assets that are out there that the criminals are involved in. One is this cash on transit. We have intercepted them and we found the cash which came between the Reserve Bank and the commercial banks. We are dealing with really organized crime, and these people, they manage to get that money before it gets to the bank, because you can see the numbers, the sequence of numbers on the cash. And we're dealing with people that are really ahead of us. We are badly infiltrated as law enforcement agencies. And therefore, there's one thing that sometimes the criminals, they forget, General, that we have also infiltrated them. That's what makes us successful. I'm always worried when the chair comes up, it means you are running out of time. The end users are not sitting in South Africa. Therefore, Commissioner, we need to work together to deal with these kind of things. I'm going to demonstrate how complex it is. I wear this shirt on purpose because it's demonstrating that what we are initiating as conservation in the region. We work together with different countries in the region. On one side, we said strengthen your borders, Commissioner, but on the other hand, we're saying conservation is not following artificial borders. Wildlife still walk between Mozambique and South Africa and Zimbabwe, South Africa and Botswana. And how do you manage that? If your elephant one time is at Mapungube, the other day is sitting in Shasha in Botswana, the other day is sitting in Zimbabwe and is poached in Zimbabwe, whose elephant is it? Those type of complexity, Commissioner, we deal with it on a daily basis. I'm going to rush through the rest of the slides. I thought I must want to talk about this slide. We have organized intelligence within our ranks in science parks. We call environmental crime investigations. We work undercover. We infiltrate the criminals, and we arrest them. And we have arrested even people in our uniform. We have arrested police. We have arrested military. We have arrested customs officials. That's how diverse is this whole thing. It's contamination is a disease. One of my generals said it's a cancer in the system. You need to take into an ICU and diagnose and take the cancer out of the system. Maybe that's what you are doing, Commissioner, with your officials, that you have fired them and some of them you have arrested them. You want to remove the cancer in the system. It's really bad. We arrested a regional ranger, a person who was going to take over when I retire or when I die, in 2018. right-handed using our official firearm to kill a rhino. That's how bad is corruption in our country. I want to talk about these transfrontier parks, and we have 5 out of the 6 transfrontier conservation areas in Southern Africa. And we have a Richtersveld up between South Africa and Namibia, Kalahari between South Africa and Botswana, Greater Mapungubo between South Africa and Zimbabwe, Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Conservation Area between South Africa, Mozambique and Zimbabwe. And we are not involved in the Libombo and Maluti. It's outside national parks. Therefore, Commissioner, we have some border posts within our parks that, or border control as they are called, within our parks. Therefore, cooperation with border management is critical for us. And we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 in our national parks that we manage. And just to give you a context, we have about 21 national parks in 6 provinces. We don't have parks in Gauteng and in Natal and in Northwest. We don't have national parks there. But in other provinces, we have national parks. And national parks, they tend to be in remote areas and where sometimes crime become very endemic. And we have marine protected areas as well. We're not only stuck into the terrestrial environment, we also deal with marine environment. And there are challenges there as well. And they are all used in Asia, these products. I mean, abalone are taken from our marine and they are used in China as well, like our rhino horn and elephants, ivory. Those 5 border control inside National Park is Mata and Sand Lynx Drift, Tuarefirian, Pafuri, and Giriondo. And those border posts are not commercial, but we are fighting with local businesses. They want to use them commercially, and we're saying, no, we cannot use them commercially, and for whatever reasons. Therefore, working at that level, you have to have some tools that are going to help you in terms of managing the international boundaries. We have international treaties. I mean, the transfrontier parks was driven mainly by countries that have been involved in conflicts in the past, and said, now let's use the parks as places of peace. And that's when we got involved. Therefore, we got international treaties that we have to deal with. And at continental and regional, we also operate there. And because, at one stage, General, we tracked a horn and it landed in Kenya. Therefore, we had to work with East Africa in terms of how do we bring that horn back and how do we disrupt that route that is used between South Africa and Kenya. Legislation, we have our constitution, we've got NEMA, NEMPA, and many other relevant statutes, even provincial and the Criminal Procedural Act, and many other acts that we use. Internally, we have policies. We try to fight the cancer inside the organization. We use polygraphy testing. It used to be called lie detector, and we are trying to vet our people and to look at lifestyle audits. If you drive between Hazelview and Skokoza, you will see double-story buildings. And you try to track commissioner, and I said, where this guy, what sort of business is in, is unemployed? Double-story building, driving the most fanciest car you can think of. And where's that money comes from? From Upondo. It means the rhino horn. And how that rhino horn gets out of South Africa into Asia, because there is no tribe in Africa that is using a rhino horn. Therefore, it's using our border posts, it's using our airports, it's using our ship. The problem, once it gets into a container, General, it's gone. You cannot track it back. You cannot track it in China, because in some of these countries, these horns are not illegal. Therefore, we're dealing with that complications. instruction and directives and memorandum, we use them. The species that are targeted, when we tend to focus on these mega herbivores, rhinos and elephants and other things. But there are other species that are targeted, abalone in the marine environment, succulent plants in the Northern Cape. Small plants of this size, we have to police them to see to search the bags, whether those small plants are not sitting on the bags. We pick up that there is an agent in the Libombo border post that is allowing these small plants from Northern Cape. You will never thought that the plants will end up in Libombo, but we have picked that the plants are going through that border post. It means there is connection there in terms of these plants. We're dealing with that. Vultures, they poison the meat. If a dead elephant, they put poison on the meat, criminals, and the vultures feed on that meat, and they die. Why? They kill vultures. The vultures are helping us to detect dead animals. I mean, in the 2 million hectares, like Kruger National Park, the same size as Israel. It's not a good example, isn't it, these days? But in terms of scale, we're dealing with that. How do you pick up the carcass? You rely on vultures. Vultures are going to tell you that you've got a dead rhino in a particular spot. Therefore, then what next? The criminals, maybe they are still around there. Usually, they're going to leave traces. I mean, dopies, for those that are coming from police will understand the language. We pick up dopies, we pick up cigarette butts, we pick up all sorts of funny things, and you can link those things. And some of them, they leave DNA in the bush. A call of nature, you go to number 2, and we pick that up. There's DNA sitting there. And we collect that, and we link the suspect. Predators, there's an outbreak of people that are looking at lions. And we started to question ourselves, what's happening there? Why lions? They have wiped out tigers in the wild in China, Laos, Vietnam, and those places. And they are using lion bones and claws to replace the tigers. Therefore, we will never relax in South Africa. Lesser extent, we've got things like called cycads. It's a plant that you find in Mpumalanga, in the Eastern Cape, Natal. I'm not going to be specific because I don't want you to know the distributions. And it's an old plant, and it's got males and females. If you disrupt that plant, sometimes you kill the whole population because you have taken the only male that was in that area. Pangolins are some of the animals that are being targeted, and desert chameleons are some of the areas. How do we deal with this? We have an integrated strategy for South Africa. We have a compulsory intervention where we don't have any option. We must hit them while they are still in our parks and arrest them and process them through the cycle. Intervention to increase rhino numbers. We're looking at breeding programs because the numbers are going down. Long-term sustainability intervention, we're looking at sustainability. And game-changing intervention, we're looking at disruption of organized crime. I mean, we work very close with the Hawks in terms of disrupting the criminals. That's a stats, which is not the best stats, and of animals that have been poached since 2023 up to 2025. And we're not proud that we have lost 175 rhinos in Kruger National Park, but if you look at Natal, at one stage they were bleeding, and they lost last year 232. The point here, we are recycling the criminals, and we're saying, no, it's in our province. And if they go to Natal, as if the criminals, they ask permission to go to another province, they don't have those things. It's only officials that have boundaries. The criminals, they don't have boundaries. If they operate in Limpopo to kill rhinos and elephants, and we intensify our operation there, they move to Natal. And for us to get into Natal, we don't have a national park in Natal. They have to negotiate, and the information leaks and all of that. The same with abalones. We squeeze them in Cape Town. They pop up in Port Elizabeth. The criminals, they move. We are infiltrated by criminals, and we have to infiltrate them as well. easy thing that we have tried in terms of analyzing the data. We've categorized that we have 5 role players in there. You've got people at the lower level that are poachers that are coming into the park. You've got local courier. I could hear the commissioner talking. I can see these different allocation of duties, that you have people that are bringing criminals in passports, a taxi bringing passports in here, and that's what we are seeing out there. You've got people that are specializing in shooting, you have people that are specializing in transporting, you have people that are specializing in recruiting the criminals, and then up, the users are sitting outside the country. And how do we deal with that? At the lowest bottom, we have rangers that are doing the work on a daily basis. We have an integrated, and I could hear the general talk, the commissioner take the whole of government. We want the whole of government to support us in fighting wildlife crime, because we're talking about a national asset that is threatened in our country. Therefore, we work with the police, we work with army, we work with SARS, and at the end, we're not going to win this in the bush. We're going to win this in the courts. We can try our best to do other things in the bush, but we have to go to the courts. What are the major deterrents? You need boots on the ground. Again, I was listening to the commissioner, said he's got maybe 25% of posts that are filled. Therefore, 25 minus 100, we've got 75% vacancy. Whoa, you're vulnerable, Commissioner. But you need boots on the ground. You need people out there to do the job. Proactive approaches such as clearing the park from outside. ECI, you need to have an intelligence. We have a system in our organization. We're like police. We call it ex gratia. I mean, we recruit informers. We work with informers. And you think when you work in the border post, there are no people that can see you. I mean, we have infiltrated the criminals. We are present there. You are thinking the uniform is going to, people wearing uniform are going to come and arrest you. You have been infiltrated badly already. We can even check your bank accounts and say, what's happening with your bank accounts? And we can see that you are living beyond your means. What's important, what we have seen, is to give the harshest sentences in our courts. That we have seen as a deterrent. There is a magistrate in Skukuza. That guy is not playing. He's giving 20 years sentence, 30 years sentence. The maximum sentence we have received, which we are proud of, was 153 years. 153 years. What that guy did, he tried to shoot our helicopter, and our CE was in that helicopter. And he's a poacher in the park, tried to shoot the helicopter. And then you can break trespassing, illegal firearm, illegal ammunition, all those things. We ended up having long list of charges, and attempted murder because he wanted to kill. I mean, if you shoot a helicopter, you're going to kill all the passengers that were there. And 153 years, we're so proud of that. I wanted to talk about technologies. It's important that you have, in these days, technology is going to be key. We even categorize dogs as technologies, aircrafts, trap cameras. I mean, we buy technologies from the industry. Industry is interested to test technologies with us. My point here is you need to have a way of mobilizing resources. You are an agency, you're not a government entity. If you break these things into projects and you go to funders, donors, there are people out there with deeper pockets that are willing to support, that are willing to partner with government to make this country a safer country. And therefore, it's important that you try to have a unit that is doing mobilized resources. We have something called in science parks, honorary rangers. Those people are mobilizing resources on our behalf. And I mean, I don't struggle to buy caps and uniform, sometimes even ammunition. You wait forever to get ammunition. I just said on the telephone call, they're not going to follow the government procurement system. I don't want to talk about that. They just go and buy things and you have your ammunition the following day. Quick, efficient. What can you do to help us report wildlife crime? We had a number in Kruger Park called 013-735-0197. It's manned 24/7 at the Joint Operations Center. If you phone us there, we will respond. Luckily, the the tourists. We've got 2 million tourists that are coming into Kruger National Park. Those are our informers. They report incidents that they can see in the park, and we have our offices manned, and we react. I tell you, General, if you cannot react within 3 hours, they will be out of your country because you are on the borders of Mozambique, and to get them to follow them in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana is going to take forever. Therefore, you've got limited time to react to criminals, to arrest them while they are still in your country, in your park. And there's a toll-free number for corruption and other things, 0800000221. You can report on that. SMS 49017. Online reporting, which is a search-out email, is a sandparks@behonest.co.za. The message, don't get involved in wildlife trafficking. If one guilty, you will rot in jail. Take-home message, that is my conclusion. We are mainly focusing on the supply side. Demand side is not addressed. That's a challenge that we are facing in fighting wildlife crime. Wildlife crime requires multiple agencies to form alliances. We need partnerships. That's the reason we're here. Because we need your support. We need Border Management Authority to support, and we support Border Management Authority because we've got borders in our parks as well. Therefore, we work hand in hand. I like the Zulu word saying, izandla ziyagezana. It means hands wash each other. And that's the reason we're here. I want to emphasize that point to all the leaders here. Resource mobilization through donor funding is important. No donor is prepared to pay overtime and salaries and bonuses. But if you have a specific need, saying, I want you to be present in my border post 24/7, therefore I need technologies. And these are the technologies that are available out there, and they can work in Masad. But be careful. There are people that are going to come up with technologies that are operating in the Northern Hemisphere. When you bring them here, they don't function. The battery life is going to be important. We're in Africa. The fires, the heat, those are the things that you have to take into consideration because some of these batteries, they melt and they start fires and it becomes a problem. Therefore, it's going to be important that we have a very organized experts that are going to advise you on the technologies. But my point here, if you've got a project and you manage to quantify, there's high possibility. I mean, we see Old Mutual today. Part of their social investment and environmental responsibility as part of their triple bottom line, surely they can pop up some dollars and help you to fight crime in your border post. Empower and develop human capabilities. I mean, if you don't train them, don't blame them. And if you have not empowered them, don't blame them for not performing. That's what we have learned. We think that we will be able to make our national parks and our communities safer places in the future. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, MC.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nicholas Funda. We really appreciate that brief. That guy who was sentenced 159 years, I think he's reminding me of somebody who was old in the Bible, Methuselah. So that is something that we are going to have if you don't behave. So colleagues, we indicated that we will break, and then I was tempted to say, hey, if we break now, what is it that we're going to call it? Is it called a breakfast or lunch or brunch? Because there is that concept now. But we are left with 5 items. We need to give time to our organized labor. There are 4 of them. And we also need to give time to our representative from Old Mutual. That is in Tate Obri Machaka. I think he joined us. Yeah, there he is. Remember I said is the reason why we are able to hear each other when we are talking, is the reason why we are able to see this presentation on the screen. So they are really our partners who come to the space when we need them. And then we also need to sign the pledge. Obviously, the most important thing is to give time to our colleagues in correctional services to reflect on their experiences and the vote of thanks. There will be lunch after that. So I was tempted to say, do we break or do we take whatever we're gonna eat now as part of lunch? I was a little bit conflicted in as far as that is concerned. But let us break for 20 minutes, colleagues. And then I mean 20 minutes, because we are still gonna have opportunity. So at 25 minutes past, let us come back here so that we can resume. Thank you.